calculating.
Oh, look at the moon.
Turn left on I-90 branch, then turn right.
And all the times I've known you, you made me wanna be a better man. Yeah, yes, you are something perfect.
Okay, so tell me your name first.
My name is Sarah, and I was born in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then I moved here to Laramie when I was 16, and I was in, do you want me to just go over my history?
Yeah.
Okay, I was in and out of foster home since I was 5. I was put in my first foster home after my mom went to prison and my dad was homeless and couldn't take care of us, so I was put into foster care when I was 5 with a woman named Geraldine, and she was just a really old age woman. Like she was African American, and her family was extremely racist against white people. And growing up, she wasn't racist towards me, but her family was very racist towards me and always called me the ugly kid and just, just be really kind of harsh. And when I got to the age of 12 and 13, I started doing drugs in school. Like, I just had a bad group of friends. Usually, some of them were the same. Throughout from the age of 5 to about 13, 14, I was in and out with my mom. I'd have weekend visits with her, or I'd stay with her for 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a time, and she was just extremely abusive, and, same as most kids' stories, she'd just beat me up, or she'd be high, or she'd leave me somewhere. She would, we'd go different places and use out max credit cards, until finally they told, I could only have supervised visits with her. But it was kind of heartbreaking, because while I was growing up, all I looked forward to was going on these visits with my mom, but she'd never show up, and I was living in a family where I didn't feel very comfortable. And so when I started junior high, I kind of started in with a bad crowd, and I started to do drugs when I was, I think, 13 to 14, and then I kind of got out of control. So Geraldine one day told me that I was going into respite, which respite is where a child is just temporarily put with another family. And I lived with her for about 5 years, and she told me I was going to respite, didn't really say bye or anything, and I packed up a few of my bags, and then I found out a week later that I was never going back, and she hadn't said bye or anything, so that was kind of hard for me. And so they put me in a few...
Have you ever resolved it with her at all?
No, I did try to once. I called her, and she wasn't very interested in talking to me, so I called her, and I was just like, I called her grandmother, and I was like, "Hi grandmother, this is Sarah," and she didn't seem very interested in talking to me anymore. So I was then put in with another family, and they were very, I'm not going to mention their name, but they were just very, very selfish people. They were mainly in it for the money. They had too many kids, and the kids were just, were all reckless, and they were just picked favorites with the kids. And they had a 3-year-old who was there, and who was so troubled, and they would lock her in a room, and they just didn't discipline her right, because I feel like with some kids, if you've never been loved, and you've never been hugged, and you've never been touched, you don't know how to handle that. But if you can become familiar with it, become adapted to it, that's one of the biggest things about, humans, and especially children, is you need physical contact. And these people just had all these kids that were so physically and mentally corrupted, and they just didn't know how to take care of them. And I feel like as a foster parent, you should, you need to give the kids what they've been missing their whole lives: loving, nurturing, someone to care about them. They've never been cared about. Of course they're going to misbehave. Of course they're going to steal. They're going to lie. They're going to break things. They don't know better. They've never been taught better. And in their homes, not to, like this little girl, she was only about 4, and she'd be scream and all these things, but she said that because that's what her mother had called her.
Yeah, that's what she'd heard.
She didn't know anything better, and they would just lock her in a room, and she would, she hadn't been potty trained. And the foster parents made it seem like it was her fault, and that was just one of the worst homes ever. And I went from there to a...
And you, so you felt like they were, that particular home, they were kind of after the paycheck?
Oh, definitely. And this was the first time. My degree right now is I'm trying to be a social worker. Like, that's what my degree is. And this was the first time in my life that I realized, even as, like, only being, like, 14, I realized that, like, I could do a better job than she could. She'd be screaming at these kids, yelling at them, punishing them, and, just excluding some kids, like, picking favorites. Like, the ones she'd adopted, she took care of better than the ones going in and out. And I felt like at that age, I finally realized, like, nothing's wrong with this little girl, like, all she needs is, like, she needs a mom, she needs somebody to love her, and I would play with her, and I'd hang out there, and she'd be happy, but the second, she'd get punished, she'd go crazy, and she'd smash her face in the wall, and, just do crazy things, but, the second that you were with her, and you'd play with her, or you'd cuddle with her, and you'd watch a movie, or read a book, she'd completely changed, she was happy, and she was, like, a normal... I don't remember, she was like 3 or 4, but that's all she really needed. Then I went to another family for a while. I don't even remember their names. I only stayed there for a few weeks. And then I went with a woman named Debbie, who had also been my Sunday school teacher when I was a kid. And she was she was like the mom I had never had, because Geraldine wasn't really my mom. She was just an older woman. She was 72, and she was taking care of me. And Debbie was like my first mom, and she, we'd go out to breakfast, and we'd go get our hair done, our makeup done, and it was really fun, but she was the first one I got really attached to, but she was only a short-term foster parent, so being left from her home was really hard for me too, so...
Because that's what you needed.
Yeah, I just wanted, I wanted a mom. I never had a mom.
What did you need?
I felt like, well...
Like as a person, at that time, what did you need?
Like being that young, like... My mom was never there. My mom was a heroin junkie, so there were times where she'd be really nice, and there would be times where she'd be really mean and, abusive, but then there'd also be times, usually when she was high, that, she'd play with me and hang out with me and be a mom. And, even when she was really bad to me, all I really craved was that mother. Like, I didn't realize it at the time, but I just wanted a mother. I wanted somebody to be my mom. You see all these other kids in school with their moms, come with them and hang out with them at school and bring them lunch and have lunch with them and bring cupcakes to the class, and I never had that, and that's all I really wanted. So when they took me away from her, I went from Geraldine to the Greniers to all these other homes, and, I'd always been ripped away every time I started to get secure. So after a while, I was just like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get myself attached, because every time I get attached, they just take me away. So they lost, when my social worker found out, he put me in the crisis center, which is right up a block, and he told me, he's like, this is your last chance, you're messing, all these people are trying to help you, and all you're doing is, like, ruining them. Like, you don't want help, you don't want anybody to be there for you, and all these people are reaching out to you, Sarah, and, like, if you can't learn to control yourself, then you're not going to get anywhere in life. And I was just like, screw you, I hate you. And I was at the crisis center, and I was crying, and I was so mad. And this woman came in, Rain, and she was like, she took me by the side, and she's like, she actually lost her job later, because you're not allowed to tell foster kids your own past. You're not supposed to tell anything. But she was the one person that, like, really changed my life, because she sat down with me, and she's like, when I was growing up, this happened to me, I didn't have a family, I didn't have anything, and I learned that if I was going to make it out in this world, that I had to do it all by myself, and that I was a beautiful person, and I was strong, and I could do anything, and that this isn't the life picked for me. These misfortunes, all these things, these struggles, God gave them to me because I'm stronger than everybody else, and they're going to make you stronger, and you're going to be a better person because of that. God wouldn't give you anything you couldn't handle. The reason these other kids around you are rich and happy with all these great things is because they're not stronger than you. They don't have as an important lesson to give to the world as you do. And after that, I was just like, you're right. Like I have nobody out there, but I need to learn how to take care of myself. So my last foster home was with the Shumways.
Was that a defining moment for you?
Oh, completely. That was completely the point where I was just like, instead of throwing away all this, like, I didn't want a family. Like, I had had so many experiences, but that was the first time I realized that I can't blame my past and my mistakes on my past. Like, the only person I can be accountable for is myself. And not everybody's going to feel sympathy for me. I shouldn't try to get sympathy. This is my life, and if I want it to be better, I can make it better. I can't sit there and cry on the past because the past is the past, and I just have to live with it. So I went to live with the Shumways, and they were a Mormon family who were the best thing that happened to me. And they had 10 kids of their own, but they've been doing foster care for years. He's on the city council. She was a dance teacher. And the first thing she said to me, unlike all my other homes, was, "I'm not your mom. I don't want to be your mom. I'm not going to try to be your mom. You want to break the rules, you want to smoke, you want to sneak out, you want to go have sex, you can do that, but you can't do that in my home. I will give you a place to live and an opportunity to improve your life, and you can either take it or leave it. There's no excuses here." And no other foster, at that time, being as troubled as I was, that was what I needed, was somebody being like, "Hey, this is how it's going to be. I'm not putting up with your stuff." And so the dad, Joe, took me upstairs, and he was like, "She's not as bad as she seems, don't worry," and I was just like, "Oh, she's crazy." She's a crazy woman. But she didn't take excuses, she was like, you have to get good grades in school, and that's just, school's number one. And I went from one semester getting straight F's to getting straight A's, and I got two jobs. I was working overnight at Wendy's, and I was working at Cherry's. I was getting straight A's. I was buying my own clothes. I was taking care of myself. I went to her church. Well, I'm still not active in the church, but I went to her church, and I for one time, and after a long period of time, I actually did become very attached to her. And I still call her my mom. I'm 21 now, and I still go over there and call her my mom. And, it took a relationship, a mother-daughter relationship, isn't what most foster parents think. It's not something that's just going to happen overnight. It's something that if a child is the right person, it's a built relationship. And after a while, for the first time in my life, I felt like she was my mom. It took about a year. I flunked out of college, and one day I woke up and I was just like, I had so much going for me, and I messed it up. And then I saw my mom for the first time in 4 years. She was strung out of her mind, and she didn't even remember my name, and it hurt me so much. And I remember just sitting there thinking, if I ever have a kid, I am never, ever, ever going to do this to them. I'm never going to make them feel as much pain as she's made me feel. Susan for the first time showed me what it felt like to have a mom and to have somebody care about me. And my own birth mom Disney thinks I'm 17 and my name's Courtney. It was just kind of hard. And then I was like, these drugs and all this is just ruining my life, and I'm never going to do that ever again. So even though I looked at my first year, my second year, I got completely clean, paid up all the bills I had wasted, saved up all my money, paid for my college, paid for my tuition, and went to school. And then after that first semester I paid myself, I made an appeal for financial aid. I signed up for scholarships. I did all I could do. I got straight A's, and for the last 3 semesters I've got a 4.0 in college. And yeah.
That's great.
And my main goal is to be a social worker. And while I do think it's really unfair and it sucks that I can't go into and work with these kids and be like, "Hey dude, I know exactly what you're going through. It sucks."
Yeah, it seems weird that you're not allowed to do that, because the one
person that had the hugest effect on me was the girl who was like, "I've been there, I've done that, and I can tell you it gets better."